This video is sponsored by Audible. Ooh. What's up, my schnugs? I made a video shitting on Pixar the other day. At the end of the video, I predicted that Incredibles 2 would be bland and forgettable, just another standard Pixar member movie. Ever since then, I've been berated with comments saying how wrong I was and that Incredibles 2 is a return to form for Pixar. A lot of people even said that it was even better than the original, but a lot of people also huff glue. I figured I would make this video to highlight everything that's wrong with Incredibles 2, just to stop you Pixar plebs from overrating this boring baby member movie. Maybe I can also get you lot off the glue huffing as well. I want to begin this review by saying that Incredibles 2 isn't objectively an awful movie. As always with Pixar, the animation is great and there's nothing directly offensive or insulting about it as a film. It's nowhere near as bad as a schlock such as the Emoji Movie or Angry Birds. If all you wanted or expected out of a sequel to The Incredibles was to just see the characters again and see some cute baby shit, then congratulations mate, this movie is actually really specifically catered for you. However, as Incredibles 2 was written and directed by Brad Bird, who has in the past made some of the best animated films of all time, I think it's fair to expect a certain degree of quality in the storytelling, especially as the man had 14 years to plan and work out a sequel to a universally loved and respected film. However, it becomes painfully clear from the very start of Incredibles 2 how rushed and lazy this sequel is. At the end of the first Incredibles, the family have fully completed their arc. This dysfunctional family have now become unified and confident superheroes, working together as a team. Even Jack has a mask, implying his powers have been awakened and he'd be fighting with the family. The fact that they went to this track race with their costumes on underneath further cements them as known heroes that are used to taking on supervillains. It's a really nice ending that wraps everything up in a neat little bow. So it feels a little awkward and janky when 14 years later we pick up exactly where this was left off, only to discover that it seems nobody has actually grown at all, and in fact seem to have regressed into becoming less efficient as a unit than before. But the Blaring continuity issues don't stop there. The Underminer, who in the first film declared war on all peace and all happiness,
I hereby declare war on peace and happiness,
is now in the sequel just robbing a bank and sucking up money? Why are you stealing money from a bank? What use do you have from it? You're just a weird mole man with a giant drill. What use do you have with all that money? Do you have like underground shops? The Underminer escapes with the money and the Incredibles stop his drill from hitting the town hall. But oh no, they get blamed for the destruction. But this just makes me think, why didn't they get blamed for the destruction that the giant robot caused in the first one? It seems like everyone's hella chuffed about them saving the day in that one, but I suppose we needed some sort of catalyst to establish that superheroes are still illegal. So that's the opening sequence. Pretty standard action scene, some jokes here and there. Pretty dumb, but quite fun, I guess. You might think it's as good as any animated Pixar film, but let's look at the opening of the original and let's find out how wrong you are. In the first Incredibles, the opening sequence shows Mr. Incredible dashing about, rescuing cats from trees, stopping robbers, interacting with Elastigirl and Buddy. All the while we see him checking his watch to check if he's got time to do these heroic acts. It all culminates in Bob arriving late to his own wedding. It's here that Helen says the key line which sums up what the whole film is about.
I love you, but if we're gonna make this work, you gotta be more than Mr. Incredible.
Bob is willing to prioritize being a hero over every other aspect of his life, and that's the conflict of the film that he needs to overcome. He's also a man that insists on working alone, but he'll later learn the value of trusting and relying on other people. We see him interacting with his biggest fan. He treats Buddy like the last leaf of autumn, something to be raked up and thrown away. We are watching our protagonist motivate and create the antagonist of the film, and we don't even know it's happening till much later. Then when you look at the opening sequence of Incredibles 2, they pass Jack about during the fight sequence. I guess they're a bit dysfunctional and the theme is about them learning to work together or learning to work with Jack. Either way, this feels like a retread of the themes from before, only sloppier and looser because they already learned how to work together in the last film. The opening sequence doesn't show any important character moments or themes because Incredibles 2 isn't really about anything. So all our favourite characters from the original are back for the sequel, but something's a bit off about them. They've gone all mouldy and rancid on the inside, like apples left outside in the summer sunshine. They look the same and sound the same, but they don't act the same.
Who ordered all vegetables? Incredible? I did. They're good and you're going to have some.
The plot of the film starts when a technology company invites Mr. Incredible, Frozone, and Elastigirl to a meeting. They tell them they want to legalize superheroes again, and their plan is to change the media's perception of heroes by strapping GoPros to them and filming them do hero stuff. Despite inviting all three to the meeting, they only want Helen to do it, which is a pretty weird business decision. Helen gladly accepts, despite the fact that last time they were in contact with a private company 3 months ago, they nearly all died. She goes to do hero stuff while Bob stays home with the kids. Helen is more than happy to do this and has a great time reliving her glory days. Bob is pretty fucked off about it, and I would be too. She spends the whole of the first film telling Bob about how important it is to be present in the family. How being a family man is more rewarding and challenging than defeating a supervillain. Helen is extremely dedicated to her family and is the main force pulling everyone together. Now, she suddenly is just as much a nostalgic adrenaline junkie as Bob was in the first one. She doesn't even use her Elastabike or her super jumps to go back and visit her family. She's like staying in a hotel. She doesn't even want to call and check up on her children. She just wants to talk to Bob about how much fun she's having. When I first saw this, I thought Helen's arc would be her realizing that being a mother was more rewarding than being a superhero. But all she really learned was that leaving your family to reenact your youth is actually really fun and fulfilling. I guess she owes Bob an apology for shouting at him for doing exactly that in the first one.
Living the glory days is better than acting like they didn't happen.
Yes, they happened. But this, our family, is what's happening now, Bob. And you are missing this.
Meanwhile, Bob is struggling with basic parental duties. The idea is that he never had to help Dash with his homework ever before, and Helen looked after all 3 children when they were babies. Even though in the first one we can see him having a healthy relationship with his children. He gets all stressed and disheveled, then his kids walk in and pity him so much that they're suddenly nice to him. Imagine walking in on your dad. He's asleep on the sofa, he hasn't washed in days and he stinks. His eyes are tear-stained. I guess I'd suddenly stop being a whiny brat too. Meanwhile, Helen is fighting a new supervillain called Screensaver, who hates screens. Screensaver can hypnotize anyone that looks at a screen and make them do anything. Helen tracks down Screensaver to his base and we have a really great sequence with some cool visuals and a great build-up of tension. Then there's an extremely fun chase through the apartment building. But then we go back to this shit pretty quickly.
If I discovered the origin of the universe, my brother would find a way to market it as a foot massager.
That's not even funny. She catches Screensaver, but it's just a pizza guy wearing screens on his eyes. Helen uncovers the big twist of the movie, which is the private company that hired them is actually evil.
Says fool me once. Shame on. Shame on you.
He remembers the time when we had parents and
If fool me, we can't get fooled again.
It turns out that the woman in charge hates supers because her dad tried to get help from supers instead of calling the police. I know this because she kidnaps Helen and monologues all this to her, something that the original Incredibles openly and regularly made fun of.
And what does Baron von Ruthless do?
He starts monologuing.
He starts monologuing. He starts like this prepared speech about how feeble I am compared to him, how inevitable my defeat is.
Because Incredibles 2 isn't a smart satire of a superhero movie, it's just another superhero movie, which is exactly what everyone wanted, I'm sure. Elastigirl gets forced to wear the hypno glasses, which makes everyone who wears them evil, and then Bob goes to rescue her and gets turned evil too. So now the kids are left to save the day. In the first film, Dash was impatient, competitive, whiny, manipulative, and was driven by curiosity. He learned to be able to compromise on what he wanted by the end of the first film. In the sequel, he's just sort of there because he has to be. He doesn't have any goals or arcs or conflict. Violet is obsessed with this little weasel, Tony, who now has a completely different face. In the first one, when he asks her out on a date, she doesn't seem to really care that much.
I like movies. I'll buy the popcorn. Okay.
Movie. There you go. Yeah. Hey, wait.
She learns to be cool, calm, and confident in herself. Her self-value comes from inside herself, not from whether a guy in high school likes her. But now in the sequel, everything she says and does revolves around him. The scenes with her are some of the funniest, but it does feel like she's regressed rather than grown. But they've all regressed. The charm that made them so likable and fun has gone. I don't get why people love this film so much. Why does everyone think this is such a great sequel? Brad Bird cut out some scenes from the original Incredibles. These scenes featured Jack scaring the shit out of his babysitter. He took those scenes and made it into a short called Jack Attack. It's pretty obvious that this short film is the main inspiration for all the scenes with Jack in the sequel. That's fine and all, because like all of you, I think the Jack sequences are really cute and funny and a great use of visual storytelling. However, why was all the Jack shit cut out from the first film? Because none of it is relevant to the actual plot or conflict in the film. Every scene in the first Incredibles has importance and progresses the plot. Even in this little montage of Bob with the kids, they work in aspects of that montage into the final fight scene. Or Edna's rant against capes is later reincorporated. When it came to Incredibles 2, we have long sequences with Jack that don't really need to be in the film, but are somehow the best parts of the film. The best parts of Incredibles 2 are the parts of the first film that were cut out. When both Bob and Helen get taken over by Screenslaver, the kids are left with Jack. They drive as fast as they can to get to the third act, and once they're there, oh boy, it's a long dragged out fight sequence on a yacht. Ever wonder why you didn't feel tense watching this sequence? I'll tell you why. Notice how the first film doesn't start with Mr. Incredible fighting a mole person in a huge fucking drill. It starts with a series of short, low threat sequences. There's a cat stuck in a tree, a man jumps from a skyscraper. There's one bank robber with some bombs, a train might crash. From there it moves on to a fire, upping the stakes a bit. Then he's stuck on an island, then his weak and vulnerable children are there. It all escalates to a huge robot in a city filled with people. It doesn't show everyone's powers and abilities straight away either. It waits right to the end before blowing its load. But in Incredibles 2, we start with a large-scale city attack, and from there the conflict becomes less and less large-scale until the final battle takes place on a yacht, with the only people really feeling at risk being the family themselves. However, there's no tension in the combat, since the way to defeat any of the evil superheroes is to just take off the hypnotic glasses, a fact that the characters realized way too late. The only person who realized this was a fucking dumb baby. They visually see Frozone change when the hypno glasses gets put on his head, so it's not like they're unaware that that's the issue here. They stop the yacht from destroying the city and superheroes are legalized again. Wow. What a journey. If this film didn't shit all over the first film enough, they feebly tried to recreate the ending cliffhanger of the first. Violet introduces Tony to the whole family, who are all driving them to their date. Then, when they hear the sirens, they kick Tony out and all pursue the criminals. In the first one, the Underminer is declaring war on peace and happiness. They're saving the world. This time they're just weird adrenaline junkies. They only need one of them to stop the fucking car. You don't all need to go, you freaks. The world established in 2004's The Incredibles is original, creative, and self-aware. It's such a shame that all Brad Bird could end up giving us is a sloppier, reskinned version of the first one, with all the clever satire removed. The characters are simplified and the stakes are lowered. I'm baffled as to why Brad Bird didn't embrace the time gap. An older Mr. and Mrs. Incredible coming to terms with their age, Violet having a child of her own, Dash a famous athlete who doesn't have time for his family. Or why not focus more on Jack and make him the central focus to the plot? Bird clearly loves making sequences with him. What if he was kidnapped or seized by the government? Why not make a film with actual ideas and themes? Why not say something? Make us cry, make us laugh. Give us some of that Pixar magic. Please, I'm desperate for it. Please. This is now the highest grossing animated film ever, and all of this just begs the question, does it deserve to be? Because to me, this feels like the epitome of lazy sequel writing. It's bland and forgettable. Pixar is no longer making tightly crafted films for families of all ages to enjoy. Its focus is on making films for the fans of their old films. Toy Story 4 isn't being made because there's another part of the story they desperately want to tell. Your childhood is a commodity, something that can be packaged and sold back to you. You can lie to yourself and say these sequels are good. You can say they're better than their predecessors, or you can accept the truth. And the truth is, you'll enjoy anything when you huff a fuck ton of glue. But what did you think of Incredibles 2? Did you like it? I'd sure hope not, but if you're of the disposition, why don't you leave a bloody comment and subscribe to my channel? And listen, if you're willing to go that far, why don't you take it a little step further and go to www.audible.com/NitPix to try out Audible. Before I had Audible, I only used to listen to Carly Rae Jepsen when I was travelling to and from any sort of important YouTube business I might be doing. But now that I have Audible, my life is so much more fulfilling as I'm able to engage with really fantastic and special stories. stories. Every month you get a credit, which lets you choose any book you want for free. This means that you are able to try out a broad range of writers and book series as well. And once you have these books, they are fully yours to own. So you're able to go back and re-listen to them anytime. Recently, I've been listening to David Mitchell's autobiography, Backstory, which is narrated by him. It's like the man is sitting across from you and telling you all about his life in this deeply witty and entertaining way. Without his luscious voice narrating it, the experience wouldn't be nearly as good. However, Audible's library is unmatched with the range of titles it has, including original Audible titles. So help out the channel and help out yourself. Use my link audible.com/nitpix or text nitpix to 500 500 to get a free book, 2 free Audible originals from a curated list, and a 30-day free trial. And right now you can get 3 months of Audible for just $6.95 a month. That's more than half off the regular price.